All right. We got another caller in with another question. Sean Tobin, what's going on?
Thanks for doing this, John. This is awesome, dude. Get
No
to pick your
problem.
brain. That's terrific.
All right.
Like I have questions about what I can do to improve just my own physical presentation and health status. And then, of course, you haven't been doing what you've been doing your whole life and your career trajectory. I always kind of like want to pick your brain about your personal experiences about what you've
Mhm.
done before. But here's a question just off the hook, and I'm sure this isn't going to apply to most of the people on here now. And I want to applaud the guy that just called in too. He had some great questions. That was pretty cool.
Mhm.
Like one of my questions for you is when you are doing the seminars and stuff, you meet people of all different walks of life, but you're
Yep.
dealing mostly with young athletes, people that probably want to get an MMA, people that are
There's a
just
lot
training
of. I did a
jujitsu.
jujitsu seminar this weekend. There's mothers, grandmothers in the class. It's a
Hmm.
wide spectrum of people who come in to learn jujitsu and when I taught some of the self defense stuff. I've done a few free self defense seminars and people who are non athletes.
Yeah.
Okay, like hippie stoners, like all about peace and love and waterfalls, and like they learn some self defense. So like you get a lot of different types of people in the stuff that I teach.
So with the people that you have that come in there, like let's say like men in their 40s to 55, that like 15-year range there,
Yeah.
if they're just mildly active, like for me recently, like I've been doing a lot of hiking, yoga. I used to do martial arts. I used to do like a lot of running, which is why I was kind of interested to hear what you were saying about the running and the cardio
Yeah.
earlier. Like like for me, I haven't been as active in recent times, although I still do some pretty active things. Like the hikes are pretty serious. I'll be doing 10,000 plus hikes. I've done a
Mm.
14er recently, like last year in Colorado. But like, what do you recommend to people? Like maybe in my situation, they're older males, you're just kind of in that trajectory, and then like after a certain point it's going to be going downhill a little bit health wise.
Yep.
What do you
Yeah.
recommend for like exercises? Like I know what you're saying about the food, I totally get that,
Mhm.
but like what would you recommend for those people that are doing the exercises? It sounds like you're going to say avoid doing cardio because of the impact and the joint issues.
Well, long and distance cardio. It can be, if you like running and you really enjoy it, like I'm not going to tell people not to go do what they really enjoy. Like your sustained impact over a long distance, it's a higher risk of injury.
Yeah.
So if you can figure out a way to do sprint workouts, shorter period of time, but like intense sprinting, where you can find a piece of equipment that doesn't beat your body up. If you can, I have a stationary bike, I have an Aerodyne bike. I think the thing's amazing. One of the best machines because you got your arms and legs involved. I've used elliptical machines. I don't use the arms on the elliptical machines, but I can do sprint workouts on the elliptical machine, and that blows my lungs out and it doesn't kill my legs. It's a very low impact machine. Versa climber, you're climbing up the thing. That's a really good machine to work into hit training, or go to a football field and you want to do line drill type sprints. Short, sweet. I haven't done cardio for a longer than a 30-minute period of time in 20 years.
Wow.
If we're going on a hike, that's I call that an active rest.
Well,
Not,
it depends on
I'm
where
not.
you're hiking,
Yeah,
the
but
elevation and how fast you're going.
it's true. Yeah, yeah. If you're like climbing up a rocks half the time, that's a little bit more than than active rest. But
Granted, yeah,
yeah,
it's not fighting, that's for sure.
I
Yeah.
try to keep it low or low time frame. That 12-minute spot. Like a lot of mine are around the 20-minute workout pace right
Hmm.
now. I'll do heavy bag. I'll do mixes of heavy bag work and the bike. Maybe I'll do bike, bag, and jump rope and just jump. Each one to a different minute. I think the number one thing that anybody can do for long-term health benefits is resistance training, lifting weights. Man, I can't remember the guy's PD Magnum, I think it was his name. But there's a guy who I follow on Instagram or Twitter who wrote a book. He didn't start lifting till he was in his 50s.
Oh wow.
And he started doing research and finding all these benefits and all these studies that were done on old people who started lifting like for the first time. They did like 8 weeks of deadlift on Saturday, and just like the one exercise once a week lifted like their health like massively. There's something to putting your body under extreme conditions that make it better.
And on that
picking up something
note, right,
heavy is one of those things.
and on that note right there, like when you were talking with the previous gentleman, I had this kind of, I was wondering how you felt about and maybe you said it earlier. Like, what do you think about like the cryotherapy and like the heat treatment
Mhm.
and stuff? Like you being an MMA guy, I'm sure you do a lot of that cryo stuff.
I've tried that. I would rather do the cryo than sitting in an ice tub because you can get much lower temperatures in the cryo and it's a shorter period of time.
And do you think that really has a benefit in stimulating the human body to like kind of repair itself when you put it under that kind of stress? Is it really?
The science kind of points to it as being beneficial. But I will say, like the stuff I also saw was like you have to do it a number of days in a row to
Hmm.
really magnify the benefits. You have to be. It was something about the shiver. Like when your body got used to it enough to where you didn't shiver under those cryo temperatures, like that's when your body is releasing the stuff you need. But like
Huh.
that's the problem is a lot of people and a lot of fighters that I knew would go like once a week. So I think maybe it makes you feel good right then. You feel great and you're euphoric right afterwards because there is
Hmm.
like some chemicals going on and changing in your body from reacting to it. But I don't
Endorphins
know
or
if you're
something?
endorphins. I mean, there's like your liver sometimes releases some shit that makes your body cleaner, your blood cleaner. Like there's a
Hmm.
lot of different things that they talk about that benefits you from things like that. And I think on a short term thing once a week, like it can help, and there's probably a little bit of placebo in there because it makes you feel good. Like you come out, you're like, whoa, that was crazy, and you just kind of did a crazy thing because your body is like at 230 below or some shit, and like
Yeah.
you come out, so it's a little bit of a wild ride. But I think like the real benefits come when if you can knock out like a few days in a row of doing it.
Let me ask you this, like, I'm just kind of curious. This is like more of a personal question for you than about like something to help me with training, but maybe something everyone can learn from, especially the younger guys who are tuning in on this. Like it's been well known now for years that like a lot of guys used to attack the training way too hard, a lot of hard sparring, not working on the technique and just shortening their careers.
Mm-hmm.
Like you yourself, having been an MMA legend, a fighter for so long, like, I mean, what kind of things did you see yourself doing as mistakes at the start that impacted your health maybe long term
Mm-hmm.
negatively that you could have done better? Like, did you do a lot of too much sparring, too much? Were
You
you
know,
too
I think
abusive on your body?
we could have definitely put more time into drills, Dutch type drills and the stand up stuff as opposed to just sparring. We would go in and just technique spar on certain days, and the guys who had fights would go up in the ring and they would do their hard sparring. And there wasn't a ton of instruction, and we would get 10 rounds in moving around in light sparring. And looking back, I was like, that's dumb to me also now because the same way I look at long distance cardio, it expands your opportunity to get injured because you're doing it longer. Well, instead of doing 5 rounds, I'm doing 10. Am I really getting more out of the second set of 5 rounds? Like, isn't my body kind of tired already? Am I not holding back? Am I not more open to injury now? Being able to split it and replace 5 of those rounds of sparring with technique. So now we drilled 5 rounds of technique. Now we'll go and do our sparring, or even do the sparring first and then do the 5 rounds of technique after, whatever is needed. And then we had days, we had our marathon roll day on Thursday, and we would come in, we would do 10 5-minute rounds. And that was really good on one hand because it got a lot of fighters to actually grapple because a lot of guys would skip grappling and just do mostly the stand-up stuff. So that would get the fighters to actually grapple hard for that 50 minutes. But at the same time, like they're not really doing the drills. You're still kind of beating your body up a longer period of time. You're never going to fight 10 rounds, so why are you going hard for 10 rounds? Go 5 rounds, get your body used to those 5 rounds and being able to go hard 5 rounds and being able to tell how much energy it's going to take you to be on point for 5 rounds, and then spend the rest of the time drilling. Either open up with drills or finish with drills. Be
Hmm.
more centered on what you're doing, more
And
focused.
I'm wondering now, like, how much do you incorporate things like yoga and like a lot of stretching into your regimen? Like, I mean, is that?
I need to do a lot more of the stretching and the yoga stuff. I have rings up in my garage, and that allows me to stretch my shoulders a lot. I'll hang from it and I'll stretch different angles. I can move the rings different
Huh.
heights, And that allows me to sit down and just open my chest up. That helps a lot. The hanging from them just for a few minutes a day helps loosen up the thoracic. I have a roller that I roll out with on my back quite a bit, and then I have a decompression machine I use on my neck. And those are the things I do the most of. But I need to stretch more. I should do some more hot yoga and have something like partnered stretches, get my legs and hamstrings and stuff. Because I lift legs, and lifting legs keeps you young. But like if you lose the flexibility with your legs, I follow Squat _University on Instagram, and every once in a while they'll post a video of an old person breaking some lifting record. It's like a 94-year-old doing a full squat.
Wow.
That's impressive.
Just kind of obliterating that whole stereotype about age a little bit.
Yeah. So it's just like, why give it up? Don't give it up. Like, keep your mobility, keep that functional movement, that compound lift type movement. Like, why stop?
In terms of like the lifting, you're talking about resistance training and how that's really key for your longevity and just keeping your body in excellent shape. I was kind of wondering, like, what about like just like doing exercises where you're like just basically using your own body weight? I mean, you're a wrestler, so I would imagine
body weight counts as resistance training. Right? There's
so
plenty
like a lot of chin-ups,
you can do push-ups, pull-ups, chin-ups, dips, free squats. You could squat jumps, plenty of stuff, lunges on your own. And there's no excuse for somebody to not be able to do some type of resistance training. Like, you have a body. Like, you can find a ton of free videos and people doing examples of stuff online. You should be able to find a workout that you can do. Like, even if it's in the morning and you're just taking an extra 15 minutes to bust out a few things, like, do it. Yeah. You can't get up and knock out 50 push-ups, do a couple planks for a minute.
I'm going to ask one more question because I see some of the troops are getting restless here. They're a little annoyed that I've asked so many questions. So we'll let some of them have a chance here with you, champ. I also think you got robbed too in that decision where they gave you the draw to what's his face, the Canadian there in Bellator.
Rory.
Yeah, Rory McDonald did. That was bullshit, dude. That, like, clearly you won that fight.
They robbed themselves of a great story.
Getting back to what we were talking about earlier too, the last question for you here is like you were talking about how like a lot of the grappling's really hard, and you were talking about how like a lot of guys focus on their stand-up with the training, and I think I had asked you once in a podcast a long time ago about like someone like Frank Mir that used to be a guy that was like jiu-jitsu and had some great submissions, and then he just morphed into this boxer where it's like he's not like really a professional boxer caliber boxer, but he's in the UFC trying to appease all the casuals by throwing hands. And
that's a part of it, but it's easier.
Yeah,
it's just easier. Like,
but I mean, isn't that part of the problem too?
I can go in and I can not be that good of shape, and I can go in technique spar guys, and I can put in 5 rounds, and as long as we don't hit the ground, like, I'm fine. The second we start doing groundwork and people were pulling on my head and people are squeezing stuff, we start hand fighting, get my head snapped in wrestling practice on Tuesdays. And then it's like your back starts hurting, then your knee gets tweaked and your head and neck gets sore. Like, it sucks to get hit hard and knocked out, don't get me wrong. But from your day-to-day, like, doing stuff, you're generally blocking most stuff. You're not getting hit that hard. It's easier to skip the grappling.
I mean, it seems kind of weird because it plays into the mindset of the casuals that watch MMA. Like, I remember, like, there's been a lot of great fights with you and other people that have a solid wrestling base, and people are like booing, and these people don't know anything about fighting because that takes a lot of fucking effort to use your leverage on another human being that's fighting you. And there's so much going on there that they're just like, they don't know anything. I was actually watching Habib fight Conor McGregor at this bar in town in Portland, Oregon, called the Marathon or whatever it was called then. And there was like some drunk kid, like this standard typical BS, like, get up,
that
fight
ain't,
like
that
a
ain't
real
fighting.
man. It's like the dude's like an artist. He just laced up the legs and he's beating the shit out of him and told him, hey, talk shit.
That's not fighting. No, I mean, yes, people get conditioned to like what they think a fight is. There's like a psychological term, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like when somebody knows so little about a subject that they can't understand how little they know about the subject.
Dunning-Kruger effect.
Dunning-Kruger effect.
That's the one.
Kruger effect. That's the one.
Yeah, and that's
fighting is probably the most biggest one. People they don't know enough to know not know they know nothing. Like they have no idea. And that's honestly what's cool about doing the self-defense stuff, because you see a lot of people get the aha, like, oh wow, I'm more capable than I thought. But you also get the people who have the realization of like, oh shit, I have no idea what to do if this happened. Somebody grabs your wrist, now what? They're like,
Yeah, that's a big problem. People just don't prepare. It's like you don't want to assume the worst is going to happen, but you should sure as shit be prepared for it. So when it does go sideways, you have a response,
Yep.
Absolutely. We've seen that for sure. Well, anyways, John, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to listen in
Yep.
on the rest of this and hear some of these other great questions people got. Some people were asking if I was like a journalist or something, but I'm just taking notes because you got a lot of info.
They're taking advantage, man. I'm doing a free consultation. Most guys don't pay for this kind of info.
That's right. And we'll have to do that at some point. Thank you, brother.
All right, man. Thank you. Appreciate you.